let's see here. Let's see if the stream's working alright. This should come on if it's working. It says you are live. Alright, cool. Hey everybody. Welcome back to another one of these things. These streams, they tend to help me just decompress the thoughts that I have that I can't necessarily make into a video, and oftentimes the reason why I enjoy doing them is just to get that feeling of decompression, to get those things that are on my mind but I don't really know how to express them out. So I've been sitting here just watching all of the YouTube videos that I have not gotten to watch when I was in the mental hospital. The thing about that is that despite the fact that I've been out for quite a while now, there's just been endless amounts of entertainment that I have not caught up on, because the room situation I had at the time did not give me enough space or comfort in order to do any of the things that I wanted to do. I would lie on the floor, I would kind of crouch in a weird way, and generally I would just feel like shit because the seating arrangement that I had did not allow me to just be comfortable in my own living space, because I had no seats, no desk, nothing like that. And now that I've set up my computer desk, which I'll talk about a little bit later, it's allowed me to just sit back and relax and enjoy whatever it is that I want to do. And that has been a feeling that I have not had in quite some time since getting here. Even when I was in the Hope and Justice Abuse Shelter in Presque Isle, they were not very kind in terms of getting good seating arrangement for laptops. So, I mean, of course I'm not blaming them. There's only so much they could do. But, I mean, I talk a bit bad about them because they weren't very good in general. But, regardless, I have been just so stoked to have this setup finally here, to finally be able to sit back and just enjoy whatever it is that I'm doing. And most of that's been YouTube videos. The fact that there's been so much content that's come out in my time in isolation and in my time of just like not fucking having actually let's do Skullgirls. Yeah, let's do Skullgirls. Of just not having a desk. And so it feels good to finally just do something that is not a podcast, to finally have content that is queued up and ready to go, that was not made to be consumed as you're falling asleep. And so, first of all, let me fix the audio on this because I know it's blasting right now. Alright, sorry about that. But yeah, I have, as I said, just basically had nothing to do in terms of the day-to-day. Now, I bought a PSP. Now, that was great. I had a PSP to be able to play video games throughout the day, but I spent the majority of time without one, and so I resulted to just downloading a lot of emulator. I don't fucking care about what these people have to say. How do I skip the goddamn story? But I would just sit down and I would play my PSP for a bit. I got a Need for Speed Shift on there, Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker, a few other games. It's been fun. I've been able to play some emulators on here in my time away from watching YouTube, and it's all been fun. I've had a lot of fun just playing video games. But there's sort of a catch to all of those things. Which one am I? I actually forgot. I forgot which girl I chose. Is it just showing me this? Like, can I fight? Where am I? Which one did I pick? I forgot which girl I picked. Are they just gonna keep going? Oh, it's the red-haired girl. Yeah, the red-haired one is the one that I picked. Okay. I thought I was controlling the black-haired one. That was the thing. I was sitting there like a fucking idiot trying to control the black-haired girl when the red one was just getting destroyed. But I've had several things to do on my own, and none of them have been like particularly investing for me in the same way that YouTube is. Not to say that I didn't enjoy them, it's just that they required more effort from me as someone who was trying to play them or get into them, when YouTube was something that I could just put on and just passively enjoy. But I think that experience was good because I was trying to get back into video games. I was trying to get back into actively consuming more media. And so the fact that I had that was legitimately helpful for me. But it's kind of bad not having YouTube for a while, not having that instant gratification content where I can just listen to somebody's voice and feel like they're in the room with me to just drown out the crushing loneliness that I may feel, which is weird. It's a weird thing, because I feel that sense of loneliness even whenever I'm in a call, for example. I will feel extremely lonely just with most of my friends. And that's not on the fault of my friends, it's just how I experience emotions. And so when I will listen to a YouTube video, I will actually sometimes just feel less lonely than when I sat down and chatted with a friend of mine. And that doesn't mean I don't love my friends. I love them immensely, and I've had some of the best times of my life with so many of my friends. It's just that sometimes I just feel so depressed that I will literally feel lonely in their company. And so I think having more of that time with them just makes the relationship worse, because I start acting sort of like a dick out of just sheer frustration and sadness. And so instead of doing that, I've kind of garnered more self-control and just have not said anything when those times come about, or just choose to withdraw from from the interaction, completely. Which is what I usually do now. I just play video games, listen to podcasts, and watch these fucking Shane Dawson documentaries on Jake Paul, because all of them came out while I was gone. And they're great videos. I mean, the whole twist of the video has already been spoiled for me, which is that Jake Paul is not a sociopath. I could have told you that from the beginning, because all of their videos are fucking skits. Like, yeah, this person had relationship drama and shit, but like, so much of that could have easily been just staged or made up by paparazzi, and the people who leave Team 10 were obviously looking for drama. If you just look at the actual fucking videos, these people were retards. So, I mean, it was an obvious twist that he wasn't going to be a sociopath. I haven't even gotten to that part, by the way. I'm still on The Secrets of Jake Paul, I believe. I got to the world of Jake Paul, and that was the one where Jake finally showed up. That one was good. I enjoyed like when Shane was like getting in the car and like they just like did that jump and everything. That was cool. But I'm getting to The Secrets of Jake Paul now, which is supposed to be the like ooh big soap opera part of the series or whatever, where they do the dramatic music and they cut back and it's like, did she or didn't she or whatever. But I'm getting to that part, and that one's probably going to be one of the best parts in the series, even though, again, I still know the spoiler that he's not a sociopath. But, oh god, it's been an enjoyable ride. It's just the way those videos are edited, the way they're spoken over, the way that everything comes together in terms of the footage that they choose. Just everything about it was just crafted so well. They did such a good job making that video series. Like, it's very clearly has a professional production behind it. And then I come back to fucking Daniel hiding in my room making his videos of like, my wife slept with another woman, and I was like, whoa. That was like one of the fastest times I've ever clicked on a video from him. And I usually watch his videos as soon as they come out, but it's like, as soon as that was the first thing I saw in my feed, first thing I clicked on in my feed, and turned out to be rather disappointing, but I I should expect that from him by this point. But I come back to all these videos, and I'm just sitting there consuming them one by one. I have, you know, my entire tab list of all the videos that have came out, and I'm just taking it all in. I'm just breathing in all that content. And it feels nice. It feels nice to finally have that in your life again after so many weeks of being deprived from it in a proper space, at least, because I would have to lay down, or I would have to go to the laundromat when there was no internet, and going to the laundromat to watch videos was always awkward because I would be so paranoid of the other people there, and so that was never any fun. And I would like watch, like I remember watching The Enemies of Jake Paul when that video first came out, or did it first come out then? I don't remember. Like, I watched like half of the video, like 27 minutes of the video in, when I was at that laundromat, but I kept constantly looking up. Like, I was looking all over the room because I thought my shit was gonna get stolen at some point, or I thought someone was gonna look over at the phone screen and see what I was watching, and I was like self-conscious about the fact that they were showing Team 10 clips, and I thought if someone came up and saw the phone, they would think that I was watching Team 10 and like shame me for it. But yeah, so that entire experience of having to go out to somewhere else to be able to watch something that you're trying to watch was just nerve-wracking. And I never actually got through most videos. I would sometimes like watch a Digivlog, or like watch like one of his new scripted videos or something, and then I would be done. There wouldn't be anything else that I would watch when I was out there, because I would just not have the comfort or the privacy to do so, and then I would have to leave really quickly because the place would close, or, you know, I was just expected to be home at that time. And so I ended up just having like nothing that I was doing when I got home. And from there, what would happen was I would get home and I would play whatever video games I had downloaded on my computer, usually for a short time. Like, I would just be totally brain dead at that point. All of my, you know, extreme emotions, exciteness, happiness, all of these things, they'd just be drained out, just like a zombie, because I just wouldn't have, as I felt, any, you know, good or substantial entertainment. Like, I had entertainment that I enjoyed doing, it's just I could only do it for so long because that ADHD, man, it needs you to constantly be on YouTube, constantly being listening to voices and having all these different things going around. And so, you know, as a wise man once said, you know, we all born as crack babies, you know that ADHD be crazy. Or is that what Kendrick said? As something about the, yeah. Basically, when you have ADHD and you have an insane amount of trouble focusing and you want to do all these different things at once, what you're craving is a lot of stimulation in the way that YouTube would give it to you, because YouTube is meant for people who have ADHD, because they understand exactly what this generation is, which is short attention spans who needs excitement. And so on YouTube you find this instantly disposable content that's, yeah, it's doesn't really have much going on in it in terms of like substantial ideas that can go a long way, but it does have a lot of things going on. It has exciting titles, exciting thumbnails, it has, you know, topics that have a narrative to it, it has people speaking in the way that they would IRL, it has, you know, all these things that you can put it on in the background and then you can do other things, and it becomes very appealing to the ones with no attention span. And I'm one of those people to some extent, and I hate the fact that I am, but I would have to, in order to play a video game, have to have that other element going on, you know? I would have to have a voice in the background if I were to play a video game, or else the video game is less meaningful, unless it was something super punchy. In that case, it's like, well, I can just sit down and enjoy this, at least for a few hours. But that's where my mind has been at, like, just reconnecting with all this now that the desk is finally done, which is a whole other saga in and of itself. Me trying to get a desk together. I got the desk in the mail, and what happened from there was I was just desperately desperately trying to get it to work. I took I believe it was a wrench, and I had lost it, and that was like an entire existential crisis for me. I lose the wrench, and like I'm jumbling all around everywhere within my room. I clean the entire place top to bottom. Oh, find out apparently it was under one of the pieces. That was terrible. And I was just desperately trying to get the pieces together, finding out, oh, well, I did this part backwards. I didn't screw this in well enough, time to take the whole thing apart again. And so the entire process was just a nightmare. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, because that's what happens. That's what happens when you're trying to put together a complex desk that you bought online. Like, what are you thinking if you buy a desk as complex as this one just off the internet? Because it had like side shit going on, it had all this other things. When really what I needed was just a straight desk. And so instead of building all these inordinate pieces, what I ended up doing was I just took the two pieces that stand up, I made them stand up together, and then I took one of the glass pieces. There are two glass pieces that I just have as miscellaneous parts now, but I took one of the glass pieces and I put it on top of the two legs that stand up. And there's the desk. There it is right there, just a little bitty board that I can use to put stuff on. And it's not like good, because it can just fall apart at any point. It's functional because it works, it holds my monitor, it holds my laptop, but it's in no way could it ever be classified as a good setup. Like, you would come on, play to online. What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. But this desk, like, this desk could never be considered as something that like works in any sort of conventional way. It only works in a functional way. You look at the desk, you put the thing on it, and it holds the thing. But oh wait, you're constantly worrying about the fact that the desk may fall apart. And so when you have that element, it ain't so good, is it? And that's basically where my head has been at in terms of the desk situation. It's like I spend all this time trying to put it together, and then in doing so, I basically just end up having a worse version of the same product. That's how it be sometimes, you know. Sometimes you just end up having the worst thing, but oh well. At least I have something, you know? I just wish that I only knew this in the beginning, that I wouldn't be able to put this fucking thing together, because in that case, if I didn't know how to put it together, what I would have done was just buy a desk that did functionally the exact same thing as this broken one does. Like, I would have bought one that just stays in one spot and doesn't do all this weird twisty stuff, that's just like a straight normal desk that you can build in like 5 seconds, because this one that I built out of the parts took like 5 seconds to get all together once I had all the pieces together. Like, it's not, the glass part is not connected to anything. The glass part is just there. It's just standing on top of all of these other parts. And like, it looks fine, but it's not connected to anything, and so if it gets shaken around too much, the glass part just falls off with everything on it. And of course it stands up well enough, but if a big enough bang happens, that whole desk is going to break, whereas one that's built properly would not. And so if I actually spent like 30 or 40 less bucks, or maybe not 40, 20 or 30 less bucks on a desk that was less complicated, I would be getting the exact same thing in a far more conventional manner, and it would be working better right now. But instead, I had to be special and get the weird aesthetic looking desk that I ended up just not knowing how to put together. Which, that was a nightmare, but thankfully I at least have something now. You can't dwell on the past too much, or else you end up just hurting yourself with something you cannot change. And so I've just kind of accepted that this is the way it is, but it is rather funny that, you know, I spent all that time invested into making this desk work, and then eventually just deciding, no, that's too much, I can't get this done. And it wasn't even an issue of motivation, it was just I did not know where the fuck the holes were that I was supposed to use. Like, if I were going to get that thing done, there were certain holes within the instructions that it said for me to look at that just were not there. Like, I was sitting there for hours trying to figure out how this thing would go together, and just there were certain parts that just did not line up no matter what I did. I took the thing apart so many times trying to figure out until I realized, no, this just isn't worth it. Oh god. Fuck. But at least I got the thing to work, and when that microphone finally comes in the mail, I can have higher quality, I can have a desk, and it's like, wow, I have a workspace, I have a microphone, this is exactly what I need to work on bigger and better videos. That's where my head's been at. And I know I've used that phrase so many times within this video, it's just that I'm not particularly good at live streaming. Even though all of my videos are unscripted, I spend a certain amount of time thinking about what I'm about to say, or like I'll pause within the video and I'll start thinking a bit more. But with live streaming, it's like you're constantly just having to say things. Like every 5 seconds, something new has to come out. You don't get as much breathing room because you're trying to be entertaining the whole time, and you don't have that time in the beginning to really think over what you're gonna say, unless you write down a topics list, which, you know, I didn't do. So when it comes to the live stream, it's like, well, what do? You know, do I just continue saying the same 5 words over and over again? Do I just trip over my words a bunch of times and sound bad? Do I just make a bunch of live streams again and again and again until that isn't the same? You know, these are the questions that have got to be on your mind. And I think I've realized that I think I just will make a bunch of live streams until the problem goes away. That I will exhaust my lists of topics and my resources so hard until eventually I'm just the best at making something out of nothing. And I mean, that is the premise of my entire channel, in a way, is that I take basically the same 5 stories from my life and I just extrapolate different things out of them. I extrapolate different analyses out of basically the same lifestyle, basically the same experiences. And sure, I do change, and I talk about those changes quite readily, but more or less the same thing, the same idea is going to be present. It's just that looking at that idea in a different way is what makes the video different. It's trying to explore that idea in a slightly different way is what makes the video different. And with live streams, it's much more of a quick process of like, I'm going to talk ad nauseum, but I have to talk about something. I have to find a way to make it work. I have to find a way to not have these same topics be boring. I have to find a way to look at these in a new, interesting way. And my channel does that too. It's just that the difference with live streams is that you have to do it at a much more fast pace, much more rapid pace. And there's not as many room for hiccups. There's not as much room for hiccups. And I believe as I practice this craft for long enough, if I just continue doing it for so long, eventually I just become a master at it. Because you gotta get in your 10,000 hours somehow. Like, there's only one reason I'm as capable at YouTube as I am, and it's because of practice. Live streaming is a totally different thing. Sure, I'm using the same skill set, but the things that live streaming requires from you are different than what normal YouTubing requires from you. And that's an exciting path to take. That when you feel that you've learned enough to make a proficient YouTube video, when you feel that you've learned enough to just vlog whatever, now what you gotta take on is the ability to do so at rapid speed, to do so when everybody's watching you and everybody is hoping for something. to do so when you don't have that breathing room, when you can't make those hiccups, those mistakes. And trying to figure out how to do that in such a off-the-cuff medium is pretty cool. It's pushing yourself to a new height, to a new limit. And I'm excited about that fact. And I've thought more about this from when I was younger. Because I was watching these Jake Paul videos, like I said, or Shane Dawson talking about Jake Paul, and there's this one scene where Jake is talking about how when he was younger he would just make these videos, and part of what drove him to do so, you know, before the whole money and internet element was even there, was just to look at what he did and then see how to do it better, was to watch back what he did and then think about how it could be improved on and just constantly be working at that. And the thing that really struck a chord with me was that Jake said that he was always his own biggest fan, because he would just make all these videos and he'd constantly just be thinking about, okay, how did I do that? How do I do this better? What goes into this? What goes into that? And the idea behind his videos would just be what he enjoyed, what he wanted to see. And I thought about this and I was like, wow, you know, I really relate to this feeling, because I started out at an early age doing this. Not necessarily on YouTube. Well, I mean, on YouTube I started out at an early age as well, like 13, late 12, and things of that nature. But even before that point, you know, even before it was about the internet, when I started out with my own camera at 7 or 8, when my mother, or no, it was my grandmother actually, she gave me that camera when she was on her deathbed, literally from cancer. She gave me that camera, and I was really just torn up over that at the time, torn up by the fact that she had died. And using that camera was something that allowed me to get out that emotional frustration, because I would take pictures, I would take videos, I would just make whatever I wanted. And when I would think about her absence, what I would do to deal with that fact was I would think about, well, what if I had these lights? What if I had this cardboard and I built something out of it? What if I had a better SD card that allowed me to use more space? What if I took this image from this frame? And through that, it allowed me to just deal. It allowed me to just accept what was going on, because, well, there may be death and terror within this life, but there's also these good things within this life, and those good things help me accept the bad things, because I know there's more good things to come despite the bad. And because of that, I know that this life is worth living. I know that I can distract myself within this life as well. And so it's all about a value judgment. Is there more good or bad? Is there more to distract me than is there to upset me? And the camera allowed me to really explore that emotion, that the camera allowed me to take out those feelings in a creative way. And when I got to, I want to say 10 or 11 years old, the ambition behind what the camera was became all the more apparent. That as I would make those shorts, that as I would make those off-the-cuff improv films on that camera, what I wanted to do was very clear in my own head. I wanted to have sets built by myself. I wanted to have characters drawn by me as animations. I wanted to have cats as actors. I wanted to have myself as an actor. And rarely did I ever achieve any of the things that I wanted to do in concept when it came out to creation, but they were nonetheless an expression of the idea. I remember one specific film that I was working on called Kitty Lack. It was about my cat. His car broke down, and so he's getting a new car. His car is like terrible, and it's like breaking down on his way to the dealership. That's the first scene. I came up with this when I was like 8 years old. It's like the first scene is his car is breaking down as he drives to the dealership. It's like playing like this loud hip-hop music. I still remember this fucking scene because I storyboarded the whole thing. And like he comes there and he buys a Cadillac, and then like basically the next part of the movie is like him driving the Cadillac after he buys it, and like palm trees and stuff come up as like a symbol of LA lifestyle. and I forget what the fuck the rest of the movie was about, but the title was just The Car. The car was like a big part of the movie, but I have no idea what the movie was actually about after that point, because I only remember the first scene, because I spent so many times refilming the first scene. But the struggle with that movie was actually trying to get my cat to, first of all, sit in the cardboard car that I built, and then second of all, trying to basically build a string mechanism that would allow the palm trees to come up on time with the scene that I was making. I had to have one person in the background helping me with that, and then they would get in the shot, and then it would fuck everything up. And then I had to worry about the lighting, the fact that I didn't have lights and that the camera required a lot of light to see. And so I would be pushing this car, and then I was supposed to be getting the palm trees to come up, and the car just would not go the way that I wanted it to, or, you know, the cat would jump out of the car because of the fact it was moving, and it was just utter hell for me trying to film that scene. And I remember how upset I was. I remember how angry I was that my image could not come out, and I still got the scene done. It was just totally different than what I had in my head. And I remember back to that time when I was young, and I remember back to exactly how I felt, and I'm like, wow. Wow. Even back then, I felt the stress of wanting to create something and then not seeing the fruits of it in the end. And nowadays I deal with that much better. I have, you know, shit like the Tetrapharmakos that relieves so much of my anxiety. I have, you know, just general mindset changes where I'm like, hey, you know, what if the thing that came out isn't exactly like my image? What if that's not a bad thing? What if it can be good in its own right? You know, death of the author and all that shit. Like, I've gotten better at just experiencing things that way, but I do remember earlier into my youth, that was not the case at all. I would get, like, pissed, upset that something did not go right in my film, and I would blame myself for it. I would blame my own ability. I would just, like, sometimes I would get to the point of, like, almost crying just because I would get so angry at myself for not being able to get it right, and I would just get so upset. I would just get so upset that my film would not work properly. And I always blamed myself. I never blamed anybody else who was helping me. I never blamed the material I had. Well, sometimes I did blame the material, but my dad, he always told me it's the tools that the artist, what was it? The poor man's artist blames his tools or something like that, and I like tried really fucking hard to stick by that belief that, oh, well, it's not my tool's fault, it's my fault. And I would, you know, I would always ask for better tools. I would always want better tools, and I would think that would make a better movie, but at the end of the day, I still blamed myself for what was happening. I would blame myself for the mishaps within my movie, for the fact that I didn't have enough hands to, you know, make palm trees and shit. Like, it wasn't always me. And the film itself didn't always come out terrible. Yeah, it came out terrible by nowadays standards, but by my standards at the time, I could have thought it was okay if I just tried hard enough. And I would just blame myself for everything that was done on there. I would always be like, you know, outlaw, 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 you fucked this up, you fucked that up, and I would just constantly just think about the negatives. This was me from a young age. Like I said, 9, 8, very young, thinking about these films. But you know what? I looked at the positives of them, I looked at the negatives of them. As much as I stared deeply into those negatives, I still thought about the positives. And my goal was to always make something better afterwards. My goal was to always get something out that I cared about. And you know what? Despite all that resilient self-criticism, I was still always the biggest fan of my own movies, because they were something that I, and only I, cared about. And sure, my family tried to act like they cared about it, but they didn't care about it. It was always me. It was always me from the beginning, the one trying to get this shit off the ground. And that was real hard. That was really hard, trying to, you know, do that from the beginning of, you know, I'm gonna, okay, fuck, never mind. I couldn't redact that character, sadly. Or not redact the character, the move that I set it up with. But, you know, I was always the one trying the hardest and caring the most. That there was nothing motivating me. Monetarily, it wasn't motivating me. Nobody was telling me to do it. In fact, a lot of the time, people were actively telling me not to do it. They were actively shaming me for the fact that I wanted to make those movies. That because those movies had so many, like, weird personal elements to them and just concepts that no one understood but me, like jokes that no one understood but me because they were so weird and out there, that I would actively be told that, like, this shit that you're making right here with these cameras is stupid and bad. You should stop. This is loud and annoying and obnoxious. Because the thing for me as a kid was I always got you know, yelled at for being obnoxious. I would get, like, hit for being obnoxious and things like that, like punished very severely for being too loud or, in many cases, too boring. I would be described as a boring child and then punished for that. And the other thing was always being too obnoxious, being too loud, being too abrasive, being too silly, using words in a way that, you know, oh, we don't like that. I find it annoying. It pisses me off. And so they would just take their anger out on the fact that I was doing that at the time. And, you know, as a result of that, I developed extreme self-doubt in what I was doing, but somehow I just kept at it. I just kept fucking keeping my thing at the grindstone, kept making videos that only I cared about, and for years and years of my life, basically almost all of it, this mindset even continues today, I did those things because I wanted them to exist. That even though they were terrible, even though they didn't come out as my vision wanted them to, I kept doing it because, god damn it, I am going to make that vision exist some way or another. And there was a lot of mental energy that came into that. It came into me wanting to make those videos as they were, that came into me wanting to be that person who I visualized as making something good. And now I don't necessarily do film anymore in the way that I wanted to. I've moved on to an art form that I've realized that I connect with on an even stronger level, which is speaking and YouTube. Even though it requires less effort, it is something that I relate to and like on a deeper level. Now that I moved on to this when I was 13, you know, with the whole Minecraft videos thing, I just, as I said, motivated by the exact same thing. I'm going to look at every video and see how I can improve, and I'm going to watch these back and really care about their growth. And then in that case, when I was making the Minecraft videos, I would get constantly embarrassed and shit-talked by people for the fact that they existed. Now sure, there were some people who thought, wow, it's cool that you're doing this, it's cool that you're making these videos, but I would sometimes get the comment, it was like, oh, they're boring. They tried to say it in a polite way. But there would always be this person who was like, yeah, your videos are trash, they're garbage, they're terrible, please stop. And that would really fucking hurt me, like, very bad, but kept doing it. In spite of that shame, I kept doing it, because I knew that if I did it for long enough, I could eventually get what I was seeking. I'm 16 now, 16 years old. 3 years ago, that was me, in middle school, getting grilled by people for making Minecraft videos. Look at me now. I've got 539 subscribers now, something like that, 538, and getting like a good 60-70 views on most of my videos, getting passionate comments of people telling me that they relate to my stories, that they care about my stories. I have a Discord full of people that seem to care, at least to an extent. I have a Patreon that makes $14 a month. I've met no shortage, that's the one. No shortage of friends who care about my work and who care about me as a person. They wouldn't have became my friends if not for my content. So think about this. That 13-year-old who wanted to do these things, and how through that effort, 3 years of effort, eventually I got to that place. Took me a long time. I would say, you know, this year was kind of like my breakthrough of figuring out what to do and how to make videos better and how to make videos in a way that I enjoyed. And this year was the first time that I actually had most of the videos that I enjoy, if not almost all of them. So it took a lot. It took a lot. It took a lot of panic attacks. It took a lot of nights staying awake and wondering why the fuck am I doing any of this. It took a lot of people telling me that I never could do this. It took a lot of people hurting me as a result of doing the things that I wanted to do. Physically hurting me as a result of the things that I wanted to do. But I kept doing it. I stayed right there. I got back up in spite of everything. And here I am. I can call myself one of my own favorites. I can watch back my videos and I can enjoy myself. And sure, I may have hiccups that I'm embarrassed of, like in this live stream I've made a few mistakes, speaking-wise, but I know when I watch this back there's going to be parts that I enjoy. And the process now is just live streaming enough times until I eventually get rid of those parts that I don't enjoy, which is another matter of practice. But I know with all my heart that I can do that, because I've done it before. I've been able to do it in the vlog sphere with getting rid of most of the problems that I have with my videos. Now I've just tried to find new problems to strive to fix, because if you're not constantly striving for improvement, then eventually you stagnate. So even when I've gotten my goals in place, I've now tried to seek new goals to continue fixing, which is, again, like I said, constantly improving, constantly caring about what your craft is. And, you know, live streaming is just the new challenge. But if I could do it with the other thing, obviously I can do it here. It's no different, you know, no different whatsoever. And I have nothing but confidence in the idea that I could make it there if I could make it in the other place. So, yeah. These thoughts have just been racing in my head ever since I heard Jake talk about that in that Shane Dawson interview. That from an early fucking age, he was just making this shit, and he was enjoying it, and he was always the one who cared about it the most. And while Jake may not have been hurt as much as I was for doing what he wanted to do, I can nonetheless share that sense of identity with my craft and that sense of care with my craft, that to this day I'm still one of my own biggest fans, you know, if not my biggest fan. I'm the one who cares the most about this shit. I'd be surprised to see someone else who cares more, you know. And despite the fact that his videos are like clickbait garbage and like stupid pranks, I could tell that he does care. I could tell that this is something that means something to him. He made a vlog for every fucking day, for Christ's sake, of these creative, stupid stunt ideas. Like, you gotta respect the craft on that dude for being able to do that, despite the fact that his content is just pandering shit. Like, he cares that it's pandering shit. He cares about what the end product is, because he's just the type of person that enjoys that. He's got the mind of the 11-year-olds who watch the videos just as a grown-up. Like, so it makes perfect sense to me, the idea that he would be making this. It makes perfect sense to me, the idea that he would be enjoying and partaking in this craft. And I can only relate it to my own videos, my own work, my own self. And that moment just humanized him a lot for me, because of how much I can relate to those experiences. But I'm gonna pop into the chat here once this thing stops loading. Why are the loading times in this game so long? That's what I want to know, because it's running it off the hard drive. It's not like it's running it off of a disk, but give me a moment. Showtime. Yeah, pause. Alright, what's the chat saying? There's probably no one in the chat because it's so late at night. Please, XD, it's okay. Hey, guy, you and me in match. Yo, so we're talking about Shane. Yeah. I was basically just talking about I was talking about the Jake Paul videos and like how I related to the shit that they were talking about in there. Pad or stick? I am using a stick. This is just the standard airflow controller that I had, just sitting there, and I decided, well, you know, I don't like have a proper pad for these fighting games, but I mean this will work. So that's usually what I do. Can you and me match? Okay, so Dane, what is your what's your Steam name? I'll just put my Steam name in the chat. My Steam name is Outlaw Harvest. Okay, I put in the wrong. Outlaw Harvest. I was reading Watamote at 1:38 a.m. and I checked my notifications. I obviously quit reading to listen. Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Honestly, I'm just astounded and surprised that anyone actually listens to these. Like, I was talking earlier about how I've always been the one who's most invested in the work that I make, and how I've always been my own biggest fan in a sense, and my biggest, you know, critic. But the fact that other people actually care enough to come listen to anything that I say is honestly astounding. I'll see if I get a friend request here. Nope, these are just new items in my inventory. So I'm gonna play Masochiz for a bit, because Masochiz is a game that I like. I have never gotten far in this game at all. I've actually been pretty terrible at it, but it's something that I often just play to relax. Like, Masochiz is a very easy game to find yourself. What the fuck? I made it to level 2. Oh, I guess it's because I switched to Linux. Because I switched to Linux, I lost all my progress. That's terrible. It's a nightmare. I know the developer of this game personally, and I just gotta say, Alex Horatio fixed that. Because when I played Half-Life 2, when I switched over to Linux, all of my save data was there. It was just right there. So, I don't know what you have to do to actually fix that, but if there is something that you can do to make your save data be imported, just like saved onto the Steam profile or whatever, please do that, Alex, because it was fucking difficult for me to get past this first level, not gonna lie. Like, I spent a lot of time just rigorously trying to beat this level for like a month. And then seeing the fact that that progress is gone did not do well for my for what's it called, like when soldiers are in war and they're it's not their morality, it's for their morale. That's the one. Yeah, it's not good for my morale out here. But yeah, Masochiz, basically the idea behind this game is that you continually shoot at all these guys that pop out here. They're called Kiz, and you just continue shooting at them until, you know, eventually these level up meters come up. And when those screens happen to show up where it says, okay, you level up these Kiz, you think what it would be doing was to level up your own character. But the trick of this game is that you're actually leveling up the enemies. So depending on, you know, which one you choose, the variables of how the game will be played are going to be different. So like you, for example, you choose faster. Now the characters are going to be upgraded to be faster, and so you're going to have to watch out for faster enemies. And because the game is just at like a level playing field where you just jump all around, and so your main focus ends up being, okay, how can I platform around these constant barrage of enemies? And that's where the fun in the game comes. It's just like playing through the same level so many times until eventually you realize what the correct combination of upgrades is. And I mean, there's a little bit of trial and error with it. There's a little bit of strategy with it where you think about like, okay, which one is going to do better here? Which one is going to, you know, allow me to progress easier. But I've never been good with strategizing in this game, or really with any game, because that's not the type that I am. I'm not someone who's constantly planning just ways to manipulate objects and things, especially when it comes into a war-like scenario. You know, I'm just not that guy. So My strategy with this game is to randomly pick as many different combinations until eventually I win. And it took me a month of playing this game, but eventually I did that. By the way, I'm terrible at video games. I'm not good at all, but it is a deep passion of mine. There used to be this meme with my former friend Magos where I was like, I am legit the best player of video games. And I would just parade around saying that all the time despite the fact that I am terrible. But the funny part about it was that I made several people believe that I was actually that narcissistic as to believe that. And when I would actually play video games and I would fail, it would be like, ha ha, outlaw, you're not so good at video games after all. And I was like, yeah, that was the intent. But I'm not going to play Masochism anymore. This is too intense. This is way too intense for this world. TIP, when you play with Cerebella, use HP. Oh, tip, okay. Octagonal gate or square gate, I have no idea what that means. You'd have to be more specific, Ray. What can I play? Because I've played Hotline Miami a lot, but Hotline Miami's fun, so I'll play more of that. This was another game that deleted my fucking save when I played it. Like, I start up the game as soon as I install Ubuntu. Or not as soon as I install Ubuntu, but like relatively some time after I install Ubuntu. And like I try to play it and like my save state's gone and okay, I don't want to touch controls, I want to touch volume. Music is at 0, good. Okay. But I mean this was a fun game to beat, so I don't particularly care if I'm not gonna have the ending and everything done, but at the same time, this was also a notoriously difficult game to beat, so I don't know. Let's do Fists of Fury. This one helped me on this level before. Oh, fuck, that is loud. Is there no... There's just no option to turn off all that sound. So I'll be trying to commentate and then... Ah, fuck. Oh, this guy's got a knife. Cool. Oh, fuck! That was quick. This game is so fun. Like, honestly, Hotline Miami should be on my 3x3, but the only reason it isn't is because I've never played Hotline Miami 2, and I feel like if I played 2, that would probably be the one that comes to my mind when I think of 3x3 worthy games. Because Hotline Miami 1, make no mistake, is one of my favorite games. I just don't feel justified putting it on a video games chart if I have not played the second game. Because the thing about sequels is that they're always trying to be bigger and better than the first. And so I want to see if it lives up to that ideal before I go and put the first on there. But, I don't know. Oh, fuck! Okay. Let's see what's on there. But, yeah, Hotline Miami, the reason why this is one of my favorite games is because... Oh, that was close. Well, I ended up dying anyway. The reason why this is one of my favorite games is because, you know, I have a very short attention span, and the thing about this game, or it's short for most people's standards, I would say. And the thing about this game is that it constantly feeds you with information and things to care about. There's always going to be enemies around the corner that you have to think about, that you have to strategize around, that you have to pay attention to. And the fact that you're always on your deathbed within this game, that there are always going to be someone out there to fuck with you, gives you something to constantly look at and worry about and be anxious about. That is the type of game that I love because it immerses every single one of your senses. If you play a game in which you end up having your mind wandering, in my opinion, that is the wrong game. Because my definition of a good game is like this. It's one in which everything about it just puts you inside of that experience. That, you know, because it's just so dense because there's so many different things going on at once, that because there's just so many great things that are trying to kill you, that because you're so anxious about the next thing around the corner, you are inside of that world now. And the fact that you are inside of that world, in my opinion, is you know, evident of what a video game is meant to do. Because what is a video game but an interactive form of storytelling? That even though, you know, there's not much of a story to Hotline Miami, the fact that I'm running around and smashing people's heads in, and that I'm actively anxious about that fact, is sort of telling the story in and of itself. It's telling that, you know, me as the player character, you know, is running away from these people, and wow, that's big and dangerous. Let's do some Rush Hour type shit, you know, like, it's a simple story, sure, but it is a story nonetheless. It's the story that I'm trying not to die within this setting. And the immersion part comes in that you are thinking about nothing but that world, that you feel as if you were inside that world because nothing is being thought about. Your self-awareness is basically gone within that state. You know that inner monologue you have when you're, you know, watching a movie or going out for a walk? That is gone in that state because you have no time to inner monologue when you are about to die. That's the great thing about video games. That's what I mean when I say immersion, is that you're not thinking about anything but the game. The game has taken control of your brain and your life. Oh wow, that was close. But when I play Hotline Miami, I get that feeling. I know some people are just so MLG that, you know, they end up just playing Hotline Miami like a fucking drone, that they listen to a podcast, or that they end up being accompanied by their own thoughts because the game is just so simple to them, because they've memorized it so heavily that it just works like that for them. And for those people, I do feel a bit of sadness, even a bit of sympathy, because I'm like, look at the experiences I have from being terrible at this game. It's like, wow, I have an adrenaline rush that I'm about to feel. That's exciting. That's an exciting experience. And I'm like, these people, they can't feel that, you know? It's pretty fun. It's pretty intense. Okay, which one do I use? This guy's MLG right now. I want that samurai. I can't die. Oh fuck. Let me look at the chat. Let's see. Can you lower the master volume? I don't know how to do that in Linux. I have no idea how to do that in Linux, so I'm probably gonna say no. But okay, that didn't fix anything. Actually, you know what I could do is I could just turn the sound off completely, and then when I do that, you can only hear me. I think it works like that. Let me look at OBS for a sec, if it would work. One sec. Okay, let me take out OBS. Okay, so yes, as far as I can tell, my microphone is working. It is functional. Is the microphone working? Can y'all hear me in the game? Yeah, I know. I tried turning the sound off in the game, and it only turned the music down. So what I ended up doing was just I turned the sound off completely from the computer. But my mic seems to still be working, so it's fine. As long as I just like have the sound turned off, it's fine. But yeah, video games are my favorite medium. As I've made this point so many times in videos that like I feel like I'm just repeating myself again and again and again at this point. But every time I explain it, I feel like I explain it at least a little bit differently, so it ends up being worthwhile. And that's really the only way I know how to talk about video games, is from this perspective, because the things that I'm looking to video games for are rather linear. Like, I look to them for an immersive experience, and there are only so many ways that I know how to explain what immersion is. When I go beyond that, there isn't much that I look to a video game for. And so it's like, well, how do I explain video games beyond just explaining what the premise is and what the individual one is trying to do, you know? That's always been the struggle with me for trying to do video games analysis, is that I can make the writing more colorful, and that can make the video more fun because it's sprucing it up in a way. But beyond that, it's like, well, what is the foundation? What is the idea that you're meant to be coming to this for? And so the only thing I can fill that void with is with personality, and that does work quite effectively. But it's like, how long? How long can I do that? You know, those are the things that I end up thinking about. Okay, come on, doggy. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, this guy, this fucking guy. Okay, I got him. Okay, these guys, what I have to do is I have to like kind of jump around here and then shoot from that side. Oh, fuck. Okay, I got him. There's a guy up here. I know there's a guy up here somewhere. Yeah, he's right there. Fuck. Okay. But yeah, like there's only so many perspectives that I know how to talk about video games from, and I mean it's refreshing and nice just to talk about, okay, this is what this game does and this is what it's about. And I mean, yeah, that can be nice, but there's only so many times that I want to do that before I like actually want to talk about what my personal experience is, because that's what most of my videos are about, you know. But in terms of my personal experience, I don't have much to talk about. So it's always a gamble or a game of trying to figure out, okay, what does this one do? What does that one do? How does this work? And just ending up coming to the same conclusion that, yes, I enjoy this because immersion. Well, it's like, well, that's not a very interesting story to tell. So I try to spruce that theme up with as much interesting words as I can, with like wording it in a way that sounds cool. But it's just so hard sometimes. Like, my job as a writer as a YouTuber is to find ways to explain the same thing in a more interesting way the second time. Find ways to make the audience be able to respond to the same thing in a better way when it comes around again. Because when you're doing a video a day, much of the time, there's only so long that you can stretch that point without it being boring. And so instead of stretching the point, what you should try to do, if you don't have a new point, obviously, what you should try to do is find a way to frame that point in a new way to keep yourself from being burnt out and to keep the audience from being burnt out. Because let me tell you, audiences can detect burnout. They can detect when you are not in your best place making your videos. And no one likes that, and I don't like that. I don't want my videos to be like that. I want my videos to be fun. I want my videos to be something that I care about and that you care about. And in order to do that, I have to have that passion. So while I may be talking about the same things a lot of the time, just by taking that same thing and reframing it in an interesting enough way, or finding a way to re-explain something better than I did it before, that's often enough for me to stay interested, because most of what I care about is the aspect of wordsmithing, you know? It's trying to be able to say as much words as I possibly can in the best way that I possibly can. That's what I care about. Oftentimes I don't even care about the individual points that much. I just care about how I say them, because so much of the point for me is just how the points themselves are said. And I think something can be said about that. I think, like, oh, that was worded all wrong. I think that the way the points can be said is a point in and of itself. That's what I'm saying. You know, you can extrapolate things out of that. You can just feel good listening to something. You know, I talk about all these complex reasons that we do stuff, but it's like, man, sometimes things just feel good to listen to, all right? You know? Can we all just come in, kumbaya, yell hallelujah out there? You know, it's some things, they just feel good to listen to. And that's what I want to do. I want to make my videos nice to listen to, that it's like, oh man, yeah, when I listen to Infinite Outlaw over here, it's like, their voice, their goodness, oh, makes me feel less alone. If I can make one person out there feel less alone, I have done my fucking job, let me tell you. Oh boy. If I can inspire you, if I can get you to feel less alone out there, more safe, more inspired, then I have done everything I want to. Alright, so let me read the chat here and then I'll end this live stream, because we've gone for quite a bit while. I've just figured out the confusion. Pad or stick usually refers to the controller or fight stick, not D-pad or analog stick. Oh, okay. No, I don't use a fight stick, I just use a controller. I have a friend who analyzes each game he plays till he's able to memorize every mechanic down pat. Holy fuck. That sounds like, I mean, good on him for being able to find something he enjoys, but for me personally, because I seek video games as like an escape that I want to be bad at, like that would be hard for me. Like I would not be in it for, I mean, I guess that's a type of immersion, because like if you sit there and you like know every element, part of it is like you're training like Goku or some shit just to be able to be good at it. But at the same time, it's like, man, sometimes I just want to sit down and I want to get creamed by the NPCs, you know? Sometimes I just want to sit down and I want to feel so anxious within my seat because bullets are coming everywhere, you know? I feel like I've reached a burnout point several times. Yeah, I remember that. I remember going on the D-pad with you and like being able to tell when you were more interested in what was going on and when you weren't more interested in what was going on. So I know. I know you have, but you've continued on making great videos in spite of that. So I think that's something for you to be proud of. He has a bit of a god complex. Yeah. I mean, it would make sense if he were that into doing just the same thing again and again until you were the best at it. But whatever gets him through life, man. Whatever ends up making him feel good about his life at the end of the day. At all level of fighting games, you can know everything and still get horribly beaten. Yeah, that's the thing about fighting games, and I noticed that the audience of those games ends up usually being the type of people who are like way into mechanics and shit, like way into memorization. And I guess part of the adrenaline for them is knowing that they still have to put in strategy, like from, you know, moment to moment, even though they have everything figured out. And plus there's the other variable of there's another person there, so you have to kind of like mechanic your way around the other person, if that makes any sense. I'm probably going to end this stream because I'm shaking like terrible right now because the medication side effects end up making me like shake a lot because of withdrawals, but because I stopped taking my risperidone, so ever since I stopped taking it, I've been just getting these terrible shakes. And also the cold doesn't help because it's really cold in this house because I live in northern Maine, right by Canada. So it gets super cold and it just makes the withdrawal side effects worse. Oh, thank you, Ray of Truth. Yeah, it will get better. It always gets better. You know, no matter what happens, it will always get better. So I'll be fine. You know, don't worry too heavily about me. It's just some minor withdrawals, but I'll see you guys all later. Thank you for coming out and listening. It does mean immensely to me. It means the world to me, the fact that anybody will actually fucking listen to this bullshit. But yeah, thank you. I'll see you all later.